I am 82 years old now. I've seen wars end. I've seen the world shift entirely on its axis. And I've watched my own body slowly give up the fight. But the deepest ache I carry is not physical. It's a silence that has lasted exactly 40 years. And it keeps me up at night, just like it did when I was 40. I thought dignity meant holding everything in, keeping the heart safe behind thick, high walls. When I was young, we believed showing vulnerability was a weakness. We believed patience was the highest virtue, even if it meant waiting for eternity. If I could go back, I would trade every shred of that silly dignity for one moment of true courage. I would trade it all for 3 simple words I never spoke. This burden is heavier than my years. His name was Daniel. We met when I was 20. We worked at the same small publishing house downtown. He had the most wonderful laugh, a deep rumble that made everyone turn their heads. We were inseparable friends, you know, always going to lunch, always staying late to discuss books. Everyone assumed we would marry. Even my mother, Linda, would tease me, telling me to stop being such a timid sparrow and just tell the boy how I felt. But in those days, a woman did not chase. A woman was meant to be chased. I waited, convinced that if the love was real, he would surely say the words first. I thought silence was proof of my sincerity. We were together every weekend for nearly a decade, but we lived in a world of unspoken sentences. I remember one summer picnic. We were sitting under an old oak tree, and he reached out and held my hand, just briefly, before pulling back to point out a bird. My stomach dropped. I knew that was the moment. He was testing the water. But I pulled my hand away faster than he did, making some silly comment about the weather. Why did I do that? Fear. Pure, awful fear. The fear of disrupting the friendship. The fear of hearing, "I love you, but only as a sister." So I smiled brightly and I talked about the bird, and the moment, the beautiful moment, died right there between us. We never tried again. The hardest part was the quiet closeness that followed. I saw him nearly every day for 40 years. We worked together until we both retired in our 60s. I went to his children's birthday parties. He came to mine. We were side by side in life, living parallel universes that should have been one. I would catch his eye across the room at the office Christmas party, and the look he gave me. It wasn't just friendship. It wasn't. But by then, the silence had become a physical thing. It was a wall of concrete we both hid behind. It was easier to pretend the love wasn't there than to risk knocking down the wall and dealing with the rubble. We allowed convenience to replace courage. I married Theron when I was 35. Theron was a decent, kind man, a practical choice. He was steady and reliable, and he adored me openly. He used his words. I loved him, truly, but not in the way I loved Daniel. My marriage to Theron was built on stability, while my relationship with Daniel was built on longing. Theron deserved a wife whose heart was fully present, and I regret every day that I couldn't give him that. I was always looking over my shoulder, hoping to see Daniel at the edge of the crowd, secretly hoping he would protest. But the silence held fast. It protected us from pain, but it also murdered every possible joy. Daniel married a lovely woman named Karen 2 years after I married Theron. I was the first person he told. I remember sitting in the cafe with him. He was so happy, so excited about their future, about buying a house and starting a family. And my heart simply imploded right there, behind a smile I fought to keep on my face. I nodded. I congratulated him. I told him he deserved the world. Did I consider telling him the truth right then? Yes. But I thought, if I tell him now, I only ruin his happiness. I convinced myself that my love was so grand, so noble, that I had to bury it to protect his future. That wasn't love. That was cowardice dressed up in a velvet cloak of false sacrifice. 40 years passed. Years of family dinners, years of shared vacations where Theron and Karen would talk about their hobbies, while Daniel and I would exchange these quiet, heavy glances across the table. We both had good lives, successful children, stability. My life was full, yes, but it was hollow at the core. You can have a life filled with laughter, children, and achievement, and still feel that profound ache of the path not taken. That is the nature of regret. It sits beside you at the breakfast table every morning. It doesn't disappear just because you built a good foundation on top of it. It just waits. Then Theron passed away when I was 75. It was a terrible loss, and I mourned him deeply. 6 months later, Karen also passed after a short illness. Suddenly, Daniel and I were alone again. We started having coffee every week, just like we did when we were 20. Only now we were just two lonely old people, scarred by life. I thought, this is it. This is the second chance the universe promised me. The wall was gone. The obligation was gone. It was just us. We talked about everything we couldn't talk about when our spouses were alive. Everything except the central thing. I decided I had to do it. I was 78. What did I have to lose? I baked his favorite pie and invited him over. He sat right where you are sitting now. I rehearsed the speech 100 times in my mind. Daniel, I need you to know the truth about those early years. I looked at him, truly looked at him, and I saw the wrinkles around his eyes, the gray in his hair, the weariness of a life well lived. He looked so frail. I opened my mouth, and you know what came out? Not I love you. I said, do you need me to change the light bulb in your hallway? I settled for practicality again. I chose the comfort of the routine, the easy silence, over the terrifying truth that might have made us truly happy or terribly uncomfortable. I chose safe. He died 6 months later. Quickly, unexpectedly. He simply didn't wake up one Tuesday morning. And I never told him. I stood at his grave and I wept, not just for his loss, but for the loss of the future we should have had. The 40 years of silence was bad enough, but those final 6 months, The second chance I wasted, that truly broke me. I realized that the courage I lacked didn't just hurt me, it robbed him too. He deserved to know he was loved fiercely, truly, by me. He deserved to carry that knowledge with him, and because of my fear, he didn't. I tell you this now, not for sympathy, but because I am running out of time, and you are not. When you are old, the things you said wrong fade, but the things you didn't say at all become mountains. We spend so much time fearing the consequence of yes or no, but the real killer is maybe and waiting. That maybe will stretch into decades if you let it. Don't worry about dignity. Dignity is for history books. Life is for living out loud. You must understand that rejection only lasts 5 minutes. Regret lasts a lifetime. My life is proof of that simple, brutal arithmetic. So please, look at the people you love right now. The ones you think about when you are folding laundry or driving home from work. The ones you see across the room. If there are words you are holding back, whether it's love, forgiveness, or just a deep appreciation, say them today. Don't wait for the perfect moment. There isn't one. The perfect moment is simply the moment you decide to speak. Don't let your 3 words turn into a 40-year silence. Because when the time is up, the loudest sound you will hear is the life you didn't allow yourself to live. And I promise you, that silence is absolutely deafening.